Hello, it's June 2022. I'm going to be talking about a topic that I discussed extensively. And this topic began for me in 2013, and I think I carried it on through to about 2018, 2019. I tapered off a little bit. And I'm going to start off by telling the story how I got onto this topic, and there's going to be some tangents to this because it all connects together. Now, in 2013, after the event of May 4th, 2013 happened to me, I was reaching out, or trying to reach out, to different groups. And I found that a lot of the support that's been offered by either, for example, nonprofit or even government agencies were really geared towards, well, only geared towards women. And so I thought I'd try to search out men's groups for support and everything else. And my post-traumatic stress that summer was off the charts. I've described how everything was so surreal. The colors and sounds were so vibrant and crisp, and I still remember that. So I was reaching out, going online, trying to, find phone numbers, emails, addresses. And what I was finding surprised me, that there were a bunch of listings for men's rights groups, for just plain support. But either they never existed or they stopped existing. And that kind of made me wonder why, what's going on. So then I started researching why, and that led me into feminism. And through that, there was probably three main YouTubers that I came across who I still respect, even though one of them was very disappointing. And another one I had actually met in person, and it appears that we had some misunderstanding or something online. It happens, but I do still respect them for the time that I knew them and whatever. So no hard feelings. And another one I never met, did some correspondence, but nothing, worth really talking about. But it was those three women that really talked about men's rights and how it doesn't exist and how there's really nothing for men. And I spent years and years and years researching in depth this whole nonsense of feminism. And yes, I did say nonsense, so if you're triggered, sorry. And a lot of the myths and lies that feminism is based on. Now, I'm going to leave some links in the description box, so if you're interested, you can kind of get started on your own journey into what's going on. And that's why now I say that feminism is a big part of civilization's downfall. But you have to research it to understand why I say that. So there's no groups, nothing, no support for men, unlike women who, there's housing, there's money, there's all sorts of stuff, but nothing like that for men. Now, I started to find online in Facebook groups and stuff, men's groups, and that was kind of interesting because they're littered with these liberal arts, theoretical pseudoscience of psychology, so-called practitioners. And really, these groups are just trying to find vulnerable men that they can lure into that system and then get them hooked on their drugs. Oh, sorry, it's called medication, right? And, get them into the mental health industry on that conveyor belt. And a lot of the men that I noticed that were posting or commenting and stuff were going through hard times and they had some serious issues. I'm not taking that away from them. But majority of the men that we see, for example, and I've mentioned this even recently, that we see are homeless. Most homeless people are men, because there's nothing in our society to help men really get back on their feet. Men are expected to pull themselves up, despite them, for example, being in a situation where their hands are literally tied. And society thinks, well, there's all this help out there, go get help. And if you know, and there isn't. It's all smoke and mirrors, illusions. But society thinks, oh, these things are available for everyone, men and women. Now, there are groups, whether they be through government agencies or nonprofit, that claim to help men, but they don't. You try calling them, and if you're lucky, they just treat you like garbage and hang up the phone. And I say this because in the earlier years, right after everything happened to me, I tried everything, and there was nothing. The best that you'll get as a man in today's world is, well, if you're not self-harming, then there's nothing there. But I would assume, based on how they talk to you, if you're going to self-harm, then you got to go to a mental institution and seek help nonsense. And then it's just a downward spiral for those men who do, as well as women. So there's nothing in society that helps men get out of a situation. Plenty for women. And the other advantage women have is women can find a man who's established and who doesn't have gone through traumas in his life and, you know, move on. The same could be said for men with women, but women tend to look for men who are established and have everything going. And I'm generalizing here, there's going to be exceptions, but whatever. So I just really wanted to recap all this with regards to, for example, my situation and everything that I've gone through. And I've also highlighted, for example, how over the years, with everything that they were trying to pin on me for whatever reason, was used to discredit me, to destroy me. They did a very good job. And feminism is a weapon used against men. And men use feminism as well against each other. And one of the interesting things that I've noticed with men is men don't tend to help men. And I'm really focusing on strangers. Now, you can have as a man, you can have a close buddy or a family member who, you know, a brother or whatever, cousin. Yes, there's exceptions. But society overall, when it comes to, especially with strangers, men don't help men. Part of that is because men see each other through natural programming as competitive. And it's unfortunate. And we also see in society that men are not supposed to show emotions, tears. That's a sign of weakness. No, it's a sign of strength. I've shared a few videos. I've done just short ones showing the effects of post-traumatic stress, even shared some tears. And I do so not because it's a sign of weakness, because I'm confident in, as a descriptive, my manhood. But there's nothing to help men get back on their feet and move forward. And I spent many years researching, exploring for myself. Well, it began as exploring and then researching, and then seeing other men and hearing other stories. I had a lot of men who were private messaging me and everything else, over those years, all with the same story. There's nothing. Men are a throwaway in today's world. And it's so sad. So I just want to finish up, because I can just ramble on. I have my older videos that are no longer public. There's tons of videos where I'm dedicated to talking about this particular topic, as well as the whistleblowing and everything else. But I had gone off on all these tangents. Now I'm just going to segue, as it just came to my mind, from feminism. I started to explore, research in depth all these social justice movements, and started following them, because feminism is a social justice movement. I've spent years researching social justice movements and the types of people that are drawn to them. And that's why, for example, in 2020, when current worldwide events and what was being imposed began, I immediately identified it as the world's largest social justice movement on a scale that we've never seen before, at least in modern times. And to this day, we see the same effects as well as the same behavior as all these other social justice movements. For example, virtue signaling. That was a big thing over the past 2, coming on maybe 3 years. And I actually did a video, was it a year or 2 ago, why I'm an expert on social justice movements, and explain everything. And I lay everything out, what was going on for the past couple of years. So, from feminism to social justice, all began for me in 2013. Why isn't there any support groups? Even just someone to have a conversation with. And I've mentioned in a recent video or two, there's a difference between talking with someone and having a conversation with someone. And I've said, you can talk to a tree. It might challenge one's sanity, but you can still talk to a tree. You can talk to an animal, like a pet, which is fine. Talk to yourself. I'm talking right now to my recording device, and no, there's nothing answering me back, so there's no conversation. But my point is, I'm talking. Having a conversation is a two-way street. And a lot of times, if you do try to call these, especially the government ones, these hotlines, the first thing out of their mouth is, you can harm yourself. It's like, if the person, whoever they're talking to, wasn't thinking that, by the time they're done, they're probably going, maybe I should. And they don't have a conversation. And when they realize, okay, well, this is, not going according to their script, then they just kind of, well, good luck. And if you call back, then you're talking to someone else and you're starting all over again. And it's really interesting, from being on the inside of the mental health industry and then being on the outside of it, gives me those two perspectives. And they don't really talk. They just, and forget about trying to talk to a pastor or minister or priest or anybody, because they're not really interested. They, on Sunday mornings or Saturdays, depending on which denomination you are, they will preach, oh yeah, all this, but they don't ever put it to practice. And that's just my personal observation. Now, I will say there's 2 pastors that are an exception to that, out of countless others. So hats off to those 2 pastors. Anyway, I just really wanted to bring attention to how there's no assistance for men, for example, in my situation, to help get out of this mess that, for example, that I'm in. And I've tried. So just making awareness, creating that awareness. Take what you will from this video. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.